Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for the end of the month update video, not wrap up, because I'm not going to do my wrap up until the end of the quarter, so that's at the end of June. So I'm just kind of gonna update you a little bit of how my reading is going, some of the books I've recently hauled. And I don't think I've done any haul videos lately, so I think I'm good. I don't think any of you guys have seen any of the books that I have here. I don't think. So the last book, I just finished Heir of Navron, the final book in the Rhyrium Revelations. It is a series technically, but it's in 3 volumes, so there are 3 physical books, but there are 2 novels in each book, so there's really 6 in the series. And I don't have it with me right now because I did decide, as much as I love the story, I enjoyed it, I like these characters, except for I do agree that the bad guys were a little bit lackluster. I mean, the main antagonist that is not revealed until the end, he was a little bit more intriguing than Saldor and Braga. Like, those guys felt like mustache twirly villains, or the villains that they just act like little boys when they don't get their way kind of villains. Even though they're grown ass old men. The other villain was a little more interesting, and I think it helped that he was also, like, he had an interesting, like, reveal and, who he turns out to be, and because he's not, like, all I'm gonna say is he's not human. So I thought that was intriguing. I liked that part. And the rest of it was really great. There's, I enjoyed these characters. Royce and Hadrian are my boys. It was fun. I enjoyed the ride. I liked the ending was great. I was very happy with the ending and how things worked out for the characters. I was somewhat right. I was mostly right about certain things, but my guess wasn't 100% wasn't accurate though. The person I guessed was not who it was at first. Like, I mean, although by the second book I was the person I hoped it was, that my original hope for it to be was not this person. Which I'm cool with, because I was even more happy with who it turns out to be in the end. But my suspicions were correct that it wasn't the person they claimed, because it was too soon to reveal the information of, oh, it's this person. This is the person is the chosen one. It was a little too easy. Like, they wouldn't reveal it that quickly. To me, that just didn't make any sense. So that was my suspicion. The fact that they were like, "Ooh, this is the obvious. This is who we're looking for," but it would, like, to me, that kind of reveal doesn't come until much later. It didn't make sense that they revealed it now, because so I really enjoyed it, but it's one of these things where it's like I always have trouble making decisions about books I'm gonna donate, because it's like there's certain authors, people that I'm wondering if I'm officially done with or not. Like Edith Wharton, for example. I did take some of her books, like my collection of some of her novellas, like Ethan Throm. There was, like, I think 2 other stories in there that I never read. And this is kind of what happened with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where I read that one and I was disappointed. So I ended up getting rid of it and never, like, although actually no, I think I did read the other ones in that one. But in Ethan Throm, it was almost the sort of similar situation where I did like the story, but I didn't read the other ones. But I did take it out of the bag I had them in, because I was having second thoughts. Because I love her writing style, and her stories are good. It's just they're very sad and depressing at times. And so it's like, I know a book doesn't have to be, always have to have a happy ending for it to be good, and it's probably pretty close to realistic for how it was for women during the time when she was, alive and writing. But in the audition I have for Age of Innocence is really pretty. But I also don't want to be one of those people that keeps a book that I'm probably not going to read again just because it's pretty. Like, I mean, if you do that, you do you. That nothing's wrong with that. I mean, it is nice to have a nice, aesthetically pleasing shelf and have, because if it's not an illustrated book, you're just having the words. But having a nice cover with beautiful, like, a beautiful design for the cover is, it's great. But I try not to go too crazy with that and spend too much money, like, because I just don't like having just something that looks, I feel guilty if I just have something that's there for aesthetic reasons. That's why I love the cloth bound, but I'm still going to read them. I'm not just going to buy them for aesthetic. I mean, I understand people saying, like, Caroline Marie Reeds was sharing her cloth bound collection, and I don't think she reads them because, they're not in her, the oil in your fingers can get the cover will fade because of the oil in your fingers, and they're hardbacks, so, but I want to own some cloth bounds. I like having them, but I'm not going to have 2 copies of a paper, one that's paperback and one for aesthetic reasons, But I definitely get the appeal of that. So yeah, I bring that up only because, again, my copy of Age of Innocence, it's the flexi-bound ones, and they have, like, each flexi-bound is a different color, and it has the, engraved in the, the flexi-bound material, those quotes from the book, and then you have the title embossed on there. They are really pretty, but, at least to me anyway, I think they're pretty. Someone else might not agree with me, but I also think, I don't want to just keep it because I think it's pretty when I'm not going to read it again. So, like, again, no, not to criticize anyone who does, have multiple copies of a book because one is for aesthetic reasons and one is for reading. That's, again, you do you, but I can't do that. I don't have the space, and I don't have, I can't afford to have multiple copies of because I want to buy other books. So, anyways, I bring that up again, like I said, because Edith Wharton's one of those authors where I'm like, I love, I do like her stories, I do love her writing, but I don't know if she's an author I want to keep all of her books. Especially since all of her books are kind of sad. I do have some of her ghost stories, so I might read those. I meant to read them last year for around, autumn time, but I never got around to it. But anyway, so back to Rhea Revelations, that's what that series is called. I had to decide, am I going to read it again? As much as I enjoyed it, that doesn't, just because I give something like 4 or 5 stars and I absolutely loved it, does not necessarily mean I'm going to keep it, that I want to, then I plan on reading it again. I mean, maybe I would read that series again, I don't know, but I have to make a decision. I have to make room, and those are big books. So it's like, I have to pick the big books that I know I'm going to read again and again. And maybe one day I could always buy them again if I want to. But anyway, or get them on audiobook. That's the other thing. There are books I can buy on audiobook too. But, I mean, and who knows, maybe I might do that instead. If I ever, wish I still had them, I'll get them on audiobook. But anyway, so basically, long story short, I don't have that one. I am donating that trilogy, or series. But I did finish it, and I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading the last book, and I feel very cleansed and very satisfied that I have another series I can check off. Then I also read The Distant Hour. Before that, I read The Distant Hours. That was really great. I don't know if I'm going to do a review for that one. I need to do it sooner rather than later. But I very much enjoyed my reread of that. I just love Kate Morin's books. They are such beautiful stories. What's good about theirs is, yeah, the historical part is often sad, but we have a present day storyline where there's hope you have hope at the end. And those characters from the past get redemption a little bit. They get the chance to redeem themselves. In some way, whether revealing the truth about something that they've kept secret, or, the contemporary character gives them closure. Or like someone the kin of theirs that's still around, if they have a member of their family that's still alive. But yeah, that one Distant Hours takes place in the 40s, and then in the I think it was 1992. Yeah, 1992. So that was written towards the end of the 90s, I think. Because that would have been the present day when that book came out, I think. I have to look when the original copyright date was for that one. But there isn't that big of an age gap with the contemporary story. Usually, year gap with the contemporary story. Usually she does the most recent time period, the most recent year when her books the present day take place. But that was really good, there's, again, just like, I think some of her books do a lot of heavy focus on mothers and daughters, and sisters. There was a lot of focus on that, which I really appreciated. And it's a very, again, like, her books the historical stuff can be very sad and tragic, but in the present day, there's a little bit of hope and redemption for the characters of the past. That's usually, she has 2 timelines, sometimes 3. I know her latest book just came out. Like I said, I'm hopefully, unless plans change, which I pray they don't, if we go to London in September, then I might be able to get her latest book, the UK cover, in September, if I want to. Or I'll just wait for the next one to come out on paperback. Because my other Kate Morin's, that's what I did with Clockmaker's Daughter. I waited until it came out on paperback. Although it still took me a long time before I finally was like, okay, I'm going to buy it. Because with me, it's like, when there's a book with the next work by that author that I love, or the next book in the series, it comes out usually hardback in the US. So I'm like, I'm just going to wait on paperback. But sometimes I procrastinate buying it, even if it comes out in paperback, because it's just, I get sidetracked by other books. It's something I'm more excited about in the moment. Like, that's what happened with Cassandra Clare in some of her books. But yeah, it was so fun to read. The only one from Kate Morin that I've reread more than once is The Secret Garden, not The Secret Garden, The Forgotten Garden. I've read that one 3 times, I think, now. And so it was good to reread another one. And I'm actually going to reread The Forgotten Garden again in the springtime. And that's the situation because that's my first Kate Morin love, the first book by her I read. The first one I actually received as for a gift, I think it was. Probably like a birthday gift. So I always have it, it's still my favorite. But yeah, The Distant Hour is great. I definitely loved it. And she just has a way of really getting you to know the characters that she creates, and really making you feel connected to them, even though they're from a completely different time period. But yeah, and I did, their Secret Garden. That was the second book that I finished. And which I'm glad I've read that one. And then there was Anna Karenina was the first book I finished in April, which that's also an achievement. Yes, another tome, a classic tome, is being completed, and now I can pick a different like I can either start reading War and Peace or Brothers Karamazov, which I think I should pick up Brothers Karamazov before I read War and Peace again, or attempt to read it. Okay, so currently I did start this one and I'm in the middle of chapter 4. And like I said last time, something happened in the beginning of the book that I was not expecting to happen. I did let myself get spoiled just to see if what happens to that character and how things turn out for them, because I want to know. I let myself get spoiled sometimes. And like I said last time, I was, wanting to know if we were going to see Pug again in this one. And of course we did in the next chapter. Him and Thomas come back. We see them again, we're visiting, and they're secretly meeting together. And whatever's happening, like, Pug has been doing his research to find answers about what's going on and why Mamorandus, I think that's what it's called, is the dark spirits after Arutha, what their true intentions are, and it actually ends up in the world of the elves, where the ancient elven city. And so that's why he's contacted Thomas, because he knows that Thomas has been possessed by the spirit of the elf king or whatever. Now he's become an elf. So Pug goes to him, is like, I need your help to go to the ancient elven city. But it's so weird. First of all, their dialogue is really awkward and weird. Like, it's very old-timey sounding dialogue. I mean, this is an older fantasy. So, let's see. What's the copyright date? Yeah, this is 80s. Yeah, the first time it came out was 86. And then it came out, and I'm guessing the Bantam edition is the paperback. So, 87, yeah. So this first came out in the 80s, and then came out again in the 90s. And then again in 2004 was a new edition. So yeah, this first came out in the 80s, so it has a lot of old fantasy tropes, which can be both good and bad, I think. But it's still pretty good, like, with but like I said, so the dialogue between the two of them is awkward and weird. I mean, but it at the same time, it fits what the transition they have gone through, because they are completely different. Like, they started the series as young boys, and they grow up, and they both are, like, magic, wraps around them and envelops some of them. That's why they know a lot more about the world than people realize, and they have this understanding of the world because of magic. So, of course, they seem a lot wiser and more mature than, they originally were because of magic. But it's still kind of weird, especially since, his name's Pug. Like, he doesn't have a name like Arthur or something. It's just Pug. I mean, he does get another name later on in the series, but it's very weird when we're being with them again. The only thing is, once again, as a female reader, it's kind of annoying when the female characters are, like, kind of shoved to the side, although at least the sister plays a little bit more of a role, but even, Arutha's sister plays a bigger role, but she's still, like, shunned to the side a little bit. It's kind of annoying, as a female reader. And yes, I know it's older fantasy, so I should just expect it, but you know what? I am allowed to feel that way as a female reader. But I still am allowed to also like it, even though I don't appreciate that. I still enjoy the story. I still had a good time with these books. Yes, I wish the female characters didn't feel like they were being shoved to the side a little bit. And yes, I know the main characters are male and blah blah blah. Yes, you can tell me that all you guys want and gatekeep me all you want, but I have a right to feel the way I feel. And I love this. I do love this series. I do have a good time with it. But yes, I am allowed to also be nitpicky or critique the fact that the female characters are kind of shoved to the side. But I still enjoy it, so I still want to read it. But that's just something that bothers me a little bit. But yeah, so either way, I'm probably not gonna come back to this until May, though, because I'm in the middle of a couple other books at the moment, and I'm trying, and so I will come back to this one in a little bit. So I am also reading. So I did decide to come back. Well, first, let me just talk about. I did finally come back to start this one again. Noli Me Tangere. Touch Me Not. I did start reading this again. But I haven't got very far. Like, I'm only in the middle of chapter 6. Even though these chapters are short, it's like, and also there was just a lot of, now I don't have a lot going on. So far, our main character is this Captain Tiago. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I know I should, but I was not raised with the Tagalog language, so I don't know all the words and how you would say things like that, how you say names and stuff. So, but there is Spanish influence in there. Spanish and Chinese influence with the Tagalog language. So I can get some idea of how to say the words, but I still have to, okay, how do you pronounce this? Like, Google search how to pronounce some of these words. So I don't know if I'm saying the guy's name right, but I'm just gonna say Captain Tiago, and we're kind of learning about him. Like, the story starts with him having this party, this political party. And now we're learning a little bit about him. And I think this was around the time the Spaniards took over. Spain took over because sadly a lot of the Philippines was spent being taken over and invaded by other, but yeah, so I really don't have a lot to tell you guys. I have more to talk about with, like I said, obviously I'm more to talk about with Savathon, The Darkness at Savathon, but also there's a little bit I could talk about with this book, with The Name of the Rose. So they're still trying to, another monk has disappeared, Berenger, I think his name is, and so they're trying to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, Atso is kind of having a crisis of conscience. He doesn't know, he's kind of debating, okay, I don't know what is considered good and what's considered evil. And both by his master, Brother William, and the father are trying to explain to him and trying to help him out with that, but he's still very confused because there's all these different orders of religious figures, and he doesn't know which one is right and which one is the wrong one, because they all have different belief systems, and they all think they're in the right. And he's learning about this one from the Fra Delcino, who did some, his methods weren't exactly pure. And like, the father's trying to tell him about this guy to maybe help him understand and realize what's good and what's evil. We also get the whole the library, where they're finally in the library, but the library they weren't allowed to go into, And it's really cool because it's like a maze. It's a labyrinth, which I think that is really cool how that's all set up. It's so creepy too, but it's like this big labyrinth, and they have these trick mirrors, so you get, a little confused even more so. Um, but yeah, I thought that is really cool. But there's a lot of waxing and waning on like history, religious history of this, you know, in Italy. Now I don't know how historically accurate it is, but yeah, there's a lot of that in this book. And Adso is just trying to understand it all. He doesn't, trying to know what's right and what's wrong. Again, though, one of the things I really, thought was ridiculous was the whole, the women, the idea of women, give birth to the devil. It's like, that whole part kind of, it's like, okay, I know women are the only ones who can give birth, but this doesn't mean, like, there's this whole, like, they talk about the Whore of Babylon they mentioned, and this one Fra Dolcino, and he had his partner Margaret, and who was really beautiful, and the father tells Adso that if she hadn't been involved, then he wouldn't have chosen. He thinks that if Margaret hadn't been involved, then, the Dolcino would not have chosen the path he did. And I'm just like, really? I don't know. I think that guy was capable of his own thought process and his own opinions, and that doesn't necessarily mean that, he was tempted by a woman, so he chose to be evil. Like, no, I think that guy has free will. I'm sure he made the choice on his own. In fact, I think she was probably a victim more so than him. I mean, I don't know. Grant, I don't know. We just get a very biased and reveal, so we don't know all of it. We only know from this guy's perspective. So we don't know if she was innocent or not. But I just, at the moment, maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Maybe he's telling the truth and she's not so. But I don't trust that, because I feel like it's a very biased opinion. And especially back then, women were thought of as just pretty little things, or that women were just evil and manipulative. But other than that, I'm really enjoying this. Again, food for thought kind of story, kind of mystery. It's definitely not a thriller or suspense or anything like that. It's more of a slow moving story where there's like one of those, which this is the kind of mystery I like, when there's characters, it's just a deep dive, it's not just finding clues and stuff. It's really like you're learning, like, mysteries are history mysteries, I guess you could say, historical mysteries, where it's not just detective work. But even though I did enjoy, like, Agatha Christie, for instance, but yeah, I like mysteries where there's actual history involved and characters trying to understand something, and they're not like police procedural stories kind of bore me. I prefer something like this. And yes, it's long, but it's still really intriguing, and I like the discussions. So yeah, that's The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I'm currently reading that one. And then the last one, I did pick up and read a little bit of it. Was Time and Again by Jack Finney. And apparently this is the same guy who wrote the book version of The Body Snatchers. So again, that was another, The Body Snatchers was another one that started out as a book first and then became a movie, but I did not know that it was a book first. But yeah, this is the guy who wrote it, Jack Finney. But this is another, I guess, a really famous work. And if you're a fan of Blake Crouch, there's a blurb from him. He does the introduction for this book. And this was one of his Blake Crouch's favorites. But anyway, this is about a guy who gets approached by the government. They're doing this secret project where they're sending people back in time. They're kind of a virtual reality style, which I like that. Most of the time, in most time travel stories, there's some kind of machine that's created. But this is more like I said, it's kind of reminds me of the sound of it. It makes me think of virtual reality, because I don't think he's actually gonna physically travel through time. I think he's gonna like have a out of body experience. I mean, I haven't got to that point yet. I'm only on chapter 4, but it feels like from what he's seen of when he goes to the facility is it feels like that. Like these people are having this out of body experience. They're not actually physically, literally leaving. They're leaving the place. They're imagining that they left. But yeah, it's really good. Apparently, according to the book description, when he goes back, he's gonna meet a woman and he's gonna fall in love. So it kind of made me think of what is that? There's that movie with Christopher Reeve, and I can't remember the actress, where he goes to this hotel in California and goes back in time and falls in love with a woman from the past, in the past. But he ends up not being able to, but it's, unfortunately, that has a sad ending. So, but it's a really good old movie from the 80s. But it kind of made me think of this one, and there might be a reference to it. I thought there might have been a reference, like, oh, okay, so this came out in the 70s. So I don't know why. I thought, but maybe it was just because it said this has been a source. Finney's magnum opus has been a source of information for countless science fiction writers since its first publication in 1970. So maybe that's why all of a sudden that movie came to mind. I wish I could remember what that movie's called. Like From Here to Eternity, maybe? Or maybe that's a different one. But yeah. So, and I just started reading this. I really, and then when I'm done with this, I'm really like the writing. So far, I do like the writing. I might check out the book version of the Body Snatchers. And like look that up on thrift books or something, because, and what's really cool is this one actually has, actually has pictures in it, which is really cool. But this is the 50th anniversary edition, so. And Stephen King blurbed it. So it has an introduction by Blake Crouch, and Stephen King blurbed it. So that was the other book that I recently started picking up. Which brings me to all the books that I've recently acquired, which includes this one, Time and Again, by Jack Finney. And then these are the books that I've recently bought from Thrift Books. And that is, first, this is a series I previously decided not to continue. I had gotten it borrowed it from the library, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going with it. And I originally intended to DNF it, but then I decided to rebuy it again, because there are a lot of booktubers that have recommended this for fans of dragons, and I liked the concept. It was kind of really cool. Like, they acted like, it was a woman who studies dragons as if they're, like, real. Like, just like studying dinosaurs. And, this is her memoirs. And it's a series. There's a lot more. She goes on these adventures and everything. So, I thought, I'm gonna give it another shot. Now that I own it, this first book, maybe I won't feel as much pressure to get it finished. Even if it's, like, slow, because of, it's basically this woman's journal and recordings of, so it's gonna have a little bit of an academic feel to it. So there will be times when it will, could potentially feel tedious. But yeah, I did like the idea of it. I thought it was really cool. So I ordered that off Thrift Books. And then the next book was a I got off of Book Outlet because it was a little bit more costly at Thrift Books because they only had the new one available. They didn't have an old one. Because back in March, I kept getting emails from Thrift Books saying a book on your wish list is available for this much. Like, it went down, but then it went back up again because I'm trying to wait until the end of the next month, because I'm trying not to buy books every month. And the only way I can do that is by skipping months and doing every other month. But that's kind of hard too, because I get the emails all the time and I look at books available and it's like, I want to get that right now. But sorry, it's thunderstorming right now, so it just got even darker in my room. But that is The Name of All Things by Jenna Lyons. This is the second book in the Chorus of Dragons series. I love the first book. And I also I kind of enjoyed the structure of it. I thought that was kind of a fun way to tell the story, is like having our main guy Kieran tell his story, but then his captor tells his story, but from her perspective, like she starts at a different point in his life. So we get kind of his youth and then his adulthood kind of situation. And this is the second one where he meets a new character who knows him from the past. And so it's probably going to do a similar thing, I think. Or, well, maybe not. Let me see. I don't know. Oh, damn it. Sorry about that. I didn't put the, like, she needs his help, I think, on something. Yeah, there's a dragon. I don't know if it's the old man dragon. The dragon they call the old man. I don't know if that means he's back. Or if it's another dragon. I think it'd be cool if it was another dragon. But I like these covers. I like how each cover has a different animal on, you know. The first one had a dragon on it, and then this one has this horse. And then the one after, it's an elephant, or like not just an elephant, but the elephants with tusk. I don't know I can't think of what those are called at the moment, but. And I believe that there's 9 books altogether, and I think they're all out, so. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. And I'm glad I have the next one so I can jump into it whenever I want. I have it sooner rather than later. So I got these 2 books, so far that's so far. That's what I have. And then at the Black Castle Books, when I sent my books in to be donated, I got 2 books. So first we have, now this was an author where I had one of their other books, but then I decided, after I heard some negative reviews on it, I decided not to, just because they've been sitting there for a while. Plus, I can always buy a different copy if I want to. And I know, don't let other people, but sometimes you just gotta, look at other people's reviews and stuff, especially, and decide, go through the reviews and figure out if there's stuff that they mention in their reviews that you agree with or disagree with. And I could always rebuy it anyway, so, but that's Henry James, the author. He's the same guy who wrote The Turn of the Screw. But the one I had was, what was it? I think it had a woman. The cover was of a woman, or the title was, I can't remember. Let me look in the book if this has a list of his other work. Let me see. Where is it? See, I don't like reading introductions because they're so long, especially classics. Even the preface is incredibly long. Turn the screw. And then, let's see. I can't find it, but I had one of his other books. Can't find the title of it. I can't find it. But anyway, yeah, so I had another one and I decided not to. But, this is another one. Does it say on the back of here? Oh, forget it. But anyway, so I picked up this one because I liked how it sounded, the premise. It's called The Princess of Casamassima. So the premise sounded really interesting. I'm just gonna read the back. A legitimate and impoverished son of a dressmaker and a noble man, Hyacinth Robinson has grown up with a strong sense of beauty that heightens his acute sympathy for the inequalities that surround him. Drawn to a secret circle of radical politics, he makes a rash vow to commit a violent act of terrorism. But when the Princess Casamassima, a beautiful, clever, and bored, takes him up and introduces him to her world of wealth and refinement, Hyacinth is torn. He is horrified by the destruction that would be wreaked upon the revolution, but still believes he must honor his vow and finds himself gripped in an agonizing, ultimately fatal dilemma. A compelling blend of psychological observation, wit, and compassion, The Princess Casamassima is one of Henry James' most deeply personal novels. But yeah, the premise sounded really intriguing. So, despite the fact that I've had other books by Henry James that I've walked away from, I'm gonna try this, and I'm gonna try some of his other works too. Give them another shot, because I mean, some of them I didn't even really give them a chance. I just looked at reviews on Goodreads, and yes, you should read a book to decide for yourself, but in some cases, it's long. Unless you really want to read it, unless you're absolutely motivated to pick it up and read it, you know, sometimes there's no pressure, you know. I feel like you don't have to read every single book, you know, unless, I get if you've spent full price on a book and you feel like you owe it to yourself in the book to at least try it and read at least a little bit. That's what happened with the Sun and It's a Moon, I think it's called. I wanted to at least try it and read it, even though I did hear some things about it. So I did try it, and I just was not feeling it. But anyway, so I'm gonna try this as well. And then we also have, the other book I got was Barkskins, which apparently was published Pulitzer Prize winning author. And actually, this author wrote The Shipping News and Brokeback Mountain. And The Shipping News, I think, just came out with a movie. I think it's the one with Tom Hanks. And he's escorting the little girl across the United States or whatever, and she was raised by Native Americans, but she was a white girl, I think, and then Brokeback Mountain, and the news all about that one. So this is the same author, Annie Prolux. And again, another one this sounded really intriguing, the premise. So, in the late 17th century, two penniless young Frenchmen, René Selle and Charles Duquet, arrive in Canada, then known as New France. Bound to a feudal lord for 3 years in exchange for land, they become woodcutters, barkskins. Selle, suffering extraordinary hardship in the forest, he is charged with clearing, is forced to marry Maquaw woman. It's marrying Maquaw woman. I guess it's a Native American tribe. Duquet, crafty and ruthless, runs away, becomes a fur trader, and sets up a timber business. But Pollux tells the story of their descendants over 300 years. Their travels across North America to Europe, China, and New Zealand. Under extremely brutal conditions, the revenge of rivals, accidents, pestilence, Indian attacks, and cultural and annihilation. Barskins is an extraordinary marriage of history and imagination from one of America's most formidable novelists. And I think it helps that it's by a woman. Because sometimes men, there's things that men write that are, like, questionable. But, anyway, so I'm going to try this. And it's one of those situations where part of me is thinking, oh, I should pick this up now and start reading now. But another part is like, but there's other books that but especially since it's so long. But what ends up happening is a lot of times I will start reading these books and then I put them down and don't come back to them. But anyway, yeah, so there's that. So this, I bought this along with this one. So I bought this one. And so then we have, okay. These are 3 books I bought from the Roast Office. So the Roast Office, as you guys need to know, along with the Black Castle, I don't buy fantasy books from them. All my fantasy books are more like thrift books and books outlet person. Just scratch that. All my fantasies either bought at Books A Million or I buy at Thrift Books, and then now I'm starting to book out with Book Outlet. But with Book Outlet, if you really want a good discount or not get, pay for shipping, you gotta buy more than 1 book from Book Outlet. Ideally more than 2, in fact. But anyway, so with the Roast Office and Black Castle, I end up a lot of times buying my classics and my historical fiction. So first, I ended up buying, first I bought this book, All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren, which, I don't know if this was this made into a movie? I think this was made into a movie. But it won a Pulitzer Prize, and this politician, Willie Tallis, he gets in, he's a corrupt politician, basically. Let me just read the description. Winner of 1947 Pulitzer Prize, All the King's Men is one of the most famous and widely read works in American literature, and is relevant today as it was 50 years ago. It traces the rise and fall of demagogue Willie Tallis, a fictional Southern politician who resembles the real-life Huey Long of Louisiana. Tallis begins his career as an idealistic man of the people, but he soon becomes corrupted by success and lust for power. Isn't that the same story? But always the story. Now Warren's masterpiece has been fully restored and reintroduced by literary scholar Noel Polk, textual editor of the works of William Faulkner. Polk presents the novel as it was originally written, revealing even the greatest energy, excitement, and complexity and subtlety of a character in this landmark of letters. So yeah. So that sounded really intriguing. And yes, it's politics, but it's historical politics. I don't mind reading about history. I'm not going to read a book that has to do about today. Not today's, politicians or anything. I have no interest. But I do like historical works about politicians. I have that, and I also bought, before I show you that one, I'm going to show you. So, I had this book originally, the hardback version, and the original cover. But it was my brother-in-law's book. So, I wasn't sure about it. So, I was feeling, and I decided to go ahead and give it back because I didn't know if I would get around to it. But I wanted to have my own copy, eventually, because I was still interested. I still was intrigued by it. This is pictures. So, I saw this and I immediately grabbed it. Now this one is essentially a tie-in addition to the miniseries starring Paul Giamatti as John Adams. That miniseries was based off of this book. But this is the life of John Adams, and especially after finally listening to Hamilton, by Ron Chernow, I want to read more biographies about presidents. And originally, the only one I had come across was the letters from John and Abigail Adams, but I did keep it. I was keeping an eye out for this one, for a paperback copy of this book, and I finally found one. It is like I said, it's a tie-in to the miniseries, but I personally don't care. But yeah, it's great to finally have my own copy, so there's less pressure for me to read it. But I need to get to it soon. But now here's the problem. This is why I don't like doing themes for each month, because I will think about doing a theme and then something throws it off. I get more interested in something else. So these are portraits of Adams and Jefferson. And I do have a book on Jefferson. It's not a biography, but it's I do have another book it's not the biography about Jefferson, but it's kind of looks at why was Jefferson so beloved, and kind of looking at his flaws and everything about him that, and this has someone wrote their name in here. I find it funny whenever people, write. Although I've been putting, the library stamps in mine, but yeah, so I'm gonna get to this, and finally read it and finish it. But anyway, so there's that, and then so as you can see, it's very interesting. And then the last book is actually a fantasy, supposedly. This is Quinn's. I don't know how to say it. Quinn. Oh, damn it. Quinn Sunks. And I don't know how to say it. I have to figure out how to pronounce this book, and it's a fantasy. Remember, yeah, there's no actual, I can't find the description, but, I looked it up on Goodreads, so that's how I found what this is about. But there are, in the, blurbs and stuff on the back, it compares the writing to Dickens, which that's a pretty bold statement. I think it's always funny when there's authors compare their work to, and of course it's tiny print, even though it's a big book. When I think it's a bold statement when you're like very Dickens-esque. This work is very Dickens-esque, even if it's not the author saying it, and like the author saying I'm trying to be like Dickens. It's like Los Angeles Times Book Review says a remarkable book in the mood, color, atmosphere, and characters. This is Charles Dickens reincarnated. It is an immersing experience. But it's like, I think that's a bit, risky saying, comparing it to, like, fine to say it's page turner, but still. But anyway. So I'm gonna look up. I need to look up how to pronounce this. But yeah. So that was the third book from. Okay, so then the last one I have to show you is I bought this to to try it out because I had to pay full price, but I think I've done better luck with this one than some of the other ones I've like the Night and Its Moon. Like I think I'll have better luck with this one than that one. But this is The Last to Watch. By J.S. Dew and I think it's sci-fi. Okay. Oh, and it's a space opera. Oh, and it says Expanse meets Game of Thrones, of course. And it's the first book. It says The Divide. It's the edge of the universe. Now it's collapsing and taking everyone and everything with it. The only ones who can stop it are the Sentinels, the recruits, exiles, and court-martial dregs and military. At the Divide, Aedquin Ray commands the Argus. She has no resources, no comms, nothing except for the soldiers. No one wanted her. Her ace in the hole could be Calvion Mercer, genius, asshole, and exiled prince, who nuked his grandfather's genetics for sleeve for reasons. I hate when they put these price things right here. It's that little tag they have. If you go to Books A Million, they always have that little white, tag. She knows they're humanity's last chance. So that is the last one, and it has to be my last one because I went a little over budget in my see, my last book I buy for the month because I went a bit over budget this month. So so I can't buy any more books in the next few days, which is fine because I think we'll be which is fine because we'll be busy this week. So going on a little bit of a vacation is coming up soon, so that was fine with me. But anyway, so those are my last books. So I don't know where I'm gonna focus most of my attention on next. I do want to read a sci-fi, and sci-fi is one of the genres, sci-fi and non-fiction genres I need to focus on, but so I don't know what I'm gonna look at, but anyway, so that is how things are going with my reading right now. Like I said, I don't know what I'm gonna. Yeah, I just don't know what I'm gonna focus on right now because now that I've talked about reminding myself that I have these books, all of a sudden now I'm like, I want to read those books like right now. And there's just certain genres I feel like I need to focus on more so than others. Yeah, but then there's all these fantasies that I want to get to, and there's classics that I want to. It's like, I don't. It's so weird. I'm so indecisive when it comes to choosing the books I want to focus on. But Anyway, so if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. I hope you are enjoying your reading. And are there any books that you've recently hauled? I would love to hear what they are. Or tell me what book you are currently reading and your feelings on it. I mean, you don't have to give me a review or anything, but just kind of sum up your, review. Maybe talk about some of your feelings on your recent reads. So I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.